What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of 0 Mile ADV, a true beginner's guide to adventure motorcycling from a true beginner's perspective. Today we are doing something a little bit different. Behind me, I have this little bit of a new project bike here that I've been working on. It's a 300 two-stroke. We'll get more into the details of the bike later, but we're going on our maiden voyage today. We're going to go ride some single track. I have ridden these trails on my dirt bike, but I have never ridden them I have ridden these trails on my mountain bike, but I have never ridden them on a dirt bike. And so today we're going to do just a quick 6-mile lap on the dirt bike, have some fun. I have a feeling I'm doing a lot of like the crab walking thing through some of the technical stuff to get the bike through, but hopefully have fun. Let's see how it goes. And with that, let's get into the video. Lessons learned from my first single track focus day. I'll just say I got my butt kicked. As a lot of you know though, I'm not very good. And when you're not very good, you're gonna get your butt kicked. So today we're gonna talk about, I wanted to kind of record this post-ride instead of intermediate ride, like during the ride, because I wanted time to reflect and think on things that, like, after my first ride, what are things I think I learned and things I need to get better. So when I go out next time, I can ride a lot better than I did today. So, item number 1, don't ride with the stock plastics. So I have a KTM XC300 XC-W Hard Enduro Edition. And that bike comes with these plastics that's like $1,400 from KTM to get the same plastics, and they're like VIN locked, etc. And so I actually got this bike couple weeks ago, but I haven't ridden it yet because, knowing me, and this is going to be important, I would scratch the factory plastics, which it makes it a lot better if you have brand new perfect plastics when you go to resell it. And knowing my track record, if you follow on this channel, I'm likely going to sell this thing in a year or so and get a different bike. But so lesson learned, do not ride with the OEM plastics. And I didn't. Starting the ride, not even a 1/10 of a mile in, I'm maybe 100 yards down the trail. I come off, get on the trail, and I knew that I was doing a harder section first, but this really didn't have anything to do with that hard section. Anyways, so I'm about, I turn down, I'm feeling good. Actually, I'm like, oh, actually this feels really good. It's not as like intimidating as I thought it was gonna be. I see like a big rock roll. I hit the rock roll instead of going around, I'm like, oh, awesome. And then I come around this corner, and then in my mind, I was like, hey, I really need to work on my clutch control and delivery. And so at that moment, I decided I should work on that. And somehow, looking back on it, what I think I did is I was like, I came around this corner and it was like kind of like a rock squeeze. And I was like, hey, I need to work on my clutch delivery. And as I turned around, I saw the two rocks and it was like a little tight, and I knew I was coming into something. And so I like grabbed the clutch, and then I was running out of power, and I started to speed, and so the bike is starting to wash out because there's just not enough momentum. So I'm giving it gas, but I don't have any clutch because I'm like, oh, I need to work on my clutch control, right? And so then I dump the clutch instead of just like letting the clutch slowly out to modulate my power, and I basically whiskey throttled the bike right into a huge boulder, ripped the front fender off, scratched up the front headlight assembly in my headlight as well. And also the other stupid thing is I had a cover for the headlight, and I'm like, I don't need a cover on the headlight. How am I going to damage this headlight? Well, if you whiskey throttle straight into a huge boulder like I did today and I'm scratching it, but it looks like it's just a plastic piece I can also replace there, which is good. The other nice thing about KTM is they give you a tool set, which basically includes every tool you need to fix the bike on the side of the road, with the exception of tire irons. And so in there I was able to, because I replaced all the plastics, I knew which bolts and how to put everything back together. So I pulled out my toolkit, and I was able to get everything repaired and back and running. And so now my front fender is all scratched up, and the front headlight assembly is scratched up, but they're just cheap $100 plastics for the whole thing, which I got from UFO Plastics, which if you are new to motorcycles and you want to know where you can get plastics. Another thing that I learned, like on the KTMs, you know, when they stick in a certain model year, so then currently it's like 2020 to current, like the frame and the body panels of the plastics haven't changed. So no matter what model of dirt bike, if it's a 100 or a 500, it's got all the same plastics. And so the nice thing is there's a lot of like UFO Plastics, you can get a whole set for like $100 shipped. So I scratched up my cheap plastics and not the OEM factory ones, because this always happens to me, and I knew it. Whenever I build a new mountain bike or whatever, a lot of times I'll, like, before I have all the protection installed, I will go and just do like, I'm gonna do a ride on the bike, I'll be fine, I won't scratch it, and I'll get it, just like today, it'll be something stupid where I'm in an area I shouldn't wreck. Like today, I shouldn't have wrecked. If I would have not thought about the whole clutch thing and I just would have kept riding like I would have went right through there and been totally fine. I would have dropped the bike later, of course. But in that situation, I would have whiskey throttled into a boulder. But I do this all the time on a mountain bike. I'll get into a slow technical section in like a super slow fall over, and then like the bike will land perfectly on the frame on a rock and like scratch the paint up real bad. And I'm like, oh, if I only had my frame protection, this wouldn't have happened. But so don't ride the factory plastics and have your protection on before your maiden voyage. Lesson number 1. Lesson number 2 is that I need to work on squeezing the bike with my legs more as opposed to letting the bike float under me. This is a bad habit I picked up from mountain biking, where like mountain biking, you never squeeze the bike, right? You always want to give the bike room to move underneath you, but your legs are pedaling and doing all the momentum, right? So I think if you had a throttle on your mountain bike, like a dirt bike, you probably would squeeze the bike. In this case, I think the biggest thing is like trying to be able to modulate the throttle and the clutch to get that perfect power delivery for whatever situation you're going into. You really need your upper body loose and light, right? If I was like loose and light and really squeezing the bike earlier, I may not have whiskey throttled the bike because I would have had to really squeeze my legs. My upper body would have been really loose. I could have grabbed clutch, dumped all the power out, you know, and just like maneuvered around or whatever, but instead I had the bike loose. And so again, it was takeaway, like squeeze the bike. And as I was practicing squeezing the bike, I'm probably squeezing too hard. If you play guitar or anything, you know, when you first start, you really squeeze the strings. And then eventually you learn, like, you don't need that much tension to actually play notes, right? And you can do a little bit lighter. But today I was squeezing pretty hard to try to just like get my upper body loose. And so like my inside of my thighs are super sore today. Okay, before we get into item number 3, if you don't know, I'm working on a motorcycle apparel company called 0 Mile ADV. This is our wool blended undershirt, one of my favorite shirts, all day, every day. And that is the most important thing. Trying to make apparel you can wear and ride on and off the bike. Speaking of enduro and trail and dual sport riding, we are also currently in the early design stages of creating a dual sport enduro trail riding apparel, so it doesn't look like you just came off the motocross track when you just went for a lap today. Like for example, today after I came off the bike, I was hungry, I hadn't eaten yet, and so it would have been nice to just like have normal clothes on. I could have walked into Starbucks, met my buddy on his GS, we could have had coffee, maybe a little sandwich, and enjoyed the morning before I had to get back to work. So if you're interested in motorcycle apparel that gives you some protection but doesn't look like you just came off the racetrack, check us out at 0mileadv.com. And there is still an opportunity to become a first edition member. What is a first edition member? First edition members are the first round of people who buy our first edition of our ADV apparel, our flannels, our pants, etc. If you do so, we got some cool things we're going to throw in that box for you, some cool surprises we want to give you. You'll be the first ones to be notified of any discounts or any new, like if you're interested in the dual sport line we're working on, you're going to be the first one to get notified, so you can get it before everybody else. Try to do some cool community things around, and of course it's going to be first edition members first because you took a chance on this before anybody else, so we really want to get back. How do you get on that list to get on and be a first edition member? Go to 0mileadv.com. Download our free BDR packing checklist. I actually use this checklist for both Colorado and New Mexico, and I included 4 things that I think No other list that I've seen has, and it really made a difference on both of my BDRs. So include that, download that, you'll get on the list, support us. With that, let's move on to number 3. Okay, item number 3, kind of in conjunction with like squeezing the bike and keeping my upper body loose, and that is clutch control. I think is probably the most important thing. One thing that I also learned on probably dumping my bikes multiple times today is that a lot of times I was riding in first gear because I'm going slow, right? And there's also another note on that, is that speed is your friend. In some cases, especially in technical riding, it can help you get through the rock smoother, but until you have the confidence to ride and the ability to ride at that speed, you have to go slow. So I'm going slow and I'm kind of in first gear a lot. And what I realize is like on the 2-stroke, a lot of times I'm getting, because that first gear is so short, I'm getting up into the power band and it's just way too much power and I'm bucking off of stuff. And then I'm grabbing the clutch because I'm out of control and then I'm dropping the bike. So what I found is that when I rode in second gear pretty much all the time, what I love about the 2-stroke and why I really wanted one is just that tractor ability. It's really, really hard to stall a 2-stroke, which is what I need, because on the 4-stroke, when I tried on my Honda, when I was doing any single track, I was stalling the bike a lot and just getting my butt kicked even worse than I did today. And so the 2-stroke kind of gives you that advantage. 2-stroke is also lighter than the 4-stroke, which is also another advantage. But you know, riding in that second gear, I've got that low tractor ability, but then if I need to give it some beans, I've got a lot longer gear to work with. And so if I'm, you know, like when I'm getting into some loose sections, I could give it a decent amount of throttle, but then modulate the clutch to determine how much wheel spin I'm getting out of the back. So I'm not just ripping through it, but I'm like really creating good traction through. Now, did I do it perfectly? No, it needs a lot of work, but I am trying. So leave any comments below if you have any suggestions on how to get better at clutch control on a dirt bike. I would love to hear them. Item number 4 is that I started with the hard section first and finished with the easy trail. This was a good thing. So going hard to easy was definitely a good thing, because like I said, within the first 100 yards of the trail, I'm wrecking, you know, and having to fix my bike. But I was like, you know, I'm fresh, right? So like I still have all the energy and I'm like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna keep riding. Also, sorry for the terrible footage, because in my wreck, even my GoPro like broke off the front of my camera, and so then I had to like, or off in front of my helmet, so then I had to like rig it up to my camelback. So that's the reason the footage changed, but I still had the energy to continue and keep pushing. And then once I got through the harder trail and I got onto the easier trail, it really built my confidence, because I was just riding stuff that was like kind of above my pay grade and I'm like having to work on. And then getting onto the single track that was like a bit flowier and easier really boosted my confidence, because I'm like, this is easy, right? Because I did all the hard stuff first, and now that I'm getting tired, I could really work through and ride the other stuff. And it just really built my confidence and made me feel really good at the end of the ride, and like excited to go ride again, even though I got my butt kicked in the beginning. Like still even thinking about all the times I wrecked or dumped the bike, etc. I still want to go out and ride it again. And I think it's just because that easy trail at the end, you know, just really helped build my confidence, because I just felt so much better, even though I'm still not good to my ability. And last but not least, speed is your friend in technical stuff. I had a friend teach me this in mountain biking, and he's like, dude, it is way easier to get through this rock garden if you can carry speed. I know it seems scary because it's just so many rocks, but it almost kind of smooths it out. And I'm having to re-teach myself that piece on the dirt bike. Because I'm not very good yet, I don't want to go very fast because I don't want to blow myself up, right? Especially when I'm riding by myself. But going through a lot of these technical sections slow, it is just hard. You know, like you're getting deflected and you're bouncing and you're trying to push your line, etc. And it just becomes harder. So when you see a line, if you can carry some speed through it and really look ahead, it really helps a lot. Item number 5, and this is a terrible, terrible habit I need to break, and I am working so hard to break this habit, and this has been a tough one to break, and that is eyes up. I keep having this problem where I'm looking down, especially as I get into technical stuff, and I'm looking too much down and on the stuff I'm going through, rather than like looking ahead picking out the technical line that's coming, knowing where I'm going, sticking with that line, and then continuing to look ahead. Every time I do that, I get through the technical section just fine, and I get to that target spot forward just fine, and then I can shift my eye. But I have such a bad habit of looking down, and then when you're going through the stuff and you're just looking down, it just doesn't work. You know, you lose speed, you don't see what's coming. It is just so much better when you look ahead, and I still have that bad problem. I got pretty good at looking ahead on the ADV bike on dirt roads and like looking for corners and looking out of the corner, and I got really good. But on tight single track, I gotta focus on getting my eyes ahead. I even notice I do this on my mountain bike, but on the mountain bike, there's some forgiveness to that. And so it's not as consequential as it is on the dirt bike, I found. And so it's like when I go get a workout on the mountain bike, I like re-ingrain that bad habit. So even on the mountain bike, I'm trying to focus on looking ahead, seeing what's coming, thinking about planning ahead so that I can just ride through it and think about the next obstacle instead of always eyes down. So with that, if you have made it this far, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment below as to why you think this is the worst video in the world and why I'm a terrible rider, because I agree with you. I am not a good rider. If you like the channel, subscribe, but don't share it with your friends. Let's keep this thing somewhat small, because if you ever read the comment section of the bigger channels, the internet can be a terrible place, and we get very few snarky comments. I didn't even have a good snarky comment to include in this week's video, so don't share it with your friends. Let's keep this thing a bit exclusive between you and the few thousand of us. That's it. Let's have fun. Let's have a cool community. Let's support each other. It really has been that way so far. There's been a lot of really good comments of people like giving their tips and their experience and their personal feedback, which just helps the community in general. And that's what I want about. I want to help new riders get excited about riding, because I also love it. So subscribe, don't share, leave a comment below. And with that, stay safe out there.